Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hi, and welcome to episode 223 of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, Executive Editor of Total Retail. Joining me today is Jennifer Pallarino, Head of Digital Marketing at Kroger. We're going to be discussing how Kroger's Vitacost brand is using data to improve its digital marketing efforts. Thanks for joining me, Jennifer.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for having me today.
So let's start by talking a little bit about what Vitacost is doing to integrate its multiple digital channels into a unified marketing mix. And, you know, what is that teaching the brand and its parent company, Kroger, about successful brand unification?
Okay, well, we have a pretty large portfolio of marketing channels and a solid assessment of a blended return on ad spend that we get out of our marketing mix. We have a better history in some channels than others, where we can forecast our return with a high level of confidence. What this does is it allows us to experiment in new channels, or some of them that we use less frequently. Those include traditional channels as well. So our mix strategy is also very much related to the size and scope of the campaigns or stories that we're marketing for. In every case, we usually strive to keep the messages really relevant through segmentation, using different offers and content that's most inspiring to a particular given segment. We implement personalization and always leverage data to evaluate which channels work best with other channels and which channels appeal to which customer data segments. We generally keep the aesthetic consistent and on brand and varying the narrative and incentive accordingly.
For the channels, maybe it would be good to identify for the audience. I'm thinking for your traditional digital channels, email, search, social, anything else that we're on site
sure.
as well?
Affiliate marketing, shopping, display, video, paid, social, many channels.
Yeah, so quite a mix there, and obviously all those. So it's a good segue into the second question. All those different channels, and you're collecting data in all that different in all those different channels, customer data and prospect data. So let's talk about the role that data and technology play in Vitacost's digital integration efforts.
Technology is everything for us. We're a business that's 100% e-commerce and digital. So without it, we wouldn't have a chance of getting to true personalization. We need to use tools such as Intelligent Marketing Cloud to give us an effective way to be able to use artificial intelligence, dynamic content, real-time browsing offers off of a customer's particular path or journey. Honestly, we wouldn't even be able to do effective segmentation without technology. Technology allows us to be more accurate, more efficient, more confident, and more consistent, helping improve all over our overall business.
You mentioned Selligent. So Vitacost recently worked with that company for a personalized email campaign. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that campaign, some of the results. From what I heard, it was quite successful.
Sure. This was a kinetic email campaign. From my perspective, the main reason for the campaign's effectiveness was that it was fun, it was interactive, and a bit out of the ordinary for us, very different. The email was lighthearted. It created a sense of mystery and intrigue for our customers, but it was also simple. They obviously enjoyed the experience, as proven by incredibly higher than normal click-through and conversion rates, which was amazing. That doesn't mean a concept like that will work every time. More out-of-the-box concepts can be effective because they are out of the box. We need to continue, obviously, to be creative with our thinking and growth and be able to have such successful campaigns in the future.
Was the campaign sent to the Vitacost's entire customer base prospect list? Was it segment down? Was it sent just to specific segments? Can you talk a little bit about the strategy in terms of who received this campaign?
Sure. For this particular campaign, it did go out to most of the customer database. It is segmented depending on maybe a loyalty segmentation process where you fall within our segmentation and database. When we speak of kinetic, it was exciting because it was interactive. You were able to physically click a particular area that changed the actual creative of the campaign without landing on a landing page. So it's really and the feedback was amazing.
And that kinetic aspect, that was in part with the work with Celigent and that kind of automation behind it?
Correct. We use Celigent Marketing Cloud's tools to be able to do this kind of creative and segmentation.
So different recipients receive different messaging, or was it, or different imagery, content?
Different, yeah. Yep. Different imagery, maybe a different offer. It just depended where you fell within that loyalty segmentation.
Very interesting. So then we talked about the kind of all the different touch points that the Vitacost brand is interacting with consumers in. And then add on to that the growth of mobile. What are you seeing in terms of how that is impacting your marketing strategy of Vitacost as consumers become more digitally savvy and they're interacting with the brand, like I said, in all these different touch points?
I find it makes it really hard to spread your dollars with efficiency. There's so many options and choices, and oftentimes they're interconnected. It could take 3 or more touch points to get a customer to engage, and many times more than that. You want to test every option at some point, but for most marketers, the budget is set. You have to be clever with your spend, and if you want to try new things. It's very important to understand your analytics and to know if a specific channel is contributing to the overall conversion, even if it's not the direct driver. Industry and consumer behavior may say spend more in mobile, but you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You need to be careful, always test in all of your channels.
That's a good lead into the next question I wanted to ask about. Kind of, you mentioned that continuous monitoring of the performance of the different channels and how that impacts where you're allocating marketing budget. So let's talk a little bit about that and the metrics the Vitacost is looking at to determine the effectiveness of your various campaigns. Obviously, there might be different metrics for different channels. So maybe you can talk about that. And then, as really a second part of that, is there any specific campaigns that you want to cite in which the brand kind of leverage customer engagement to meet specific campaign goals?
Sure. This depends on which marketing channel and campaign we're analyzing, but primarily our blended return on ad spend is how we measure. We also track engagement rates, clicks, conversion, and we look at multi-touch attribution models to help scale certain programs and channels. I look at calls to customer service, more qualitative responses, and feedback are always good to analyze. There's a lot to be said for campaigns that make your associates, colleagues, bosses, friends, and families feel good. And we get a lot of feedback from those. As far as brand leverage customer engagement goals, we have many ways, both quantitative and qualitative, to measure customer engagement. Traffic to the site, time on page, conversion, average order value, and items per order are engagements we measure against in every campaign. From a qualitative perspective, we'll look at customer service queries. We use social channels and communication with our brand advocacy community. We do this on all campaigns. One in particular, actually, this past summer, involved our feel-good brand message tied to big offers in multiple channels that were driven by customer feedback and behavior.
So how frequently, I'm interested in how frequently this, evaluation and analysis of different campaigns, whether it be an email campaign, a social campaign, paid search, whatever it may be, does that vary depending on the channel and also maybe the size of the campaign? And, is it a certain length of time, or maybe it's, volume in terms of number of consumers that have engaged with the campaign, and then you stop and say, okay, let's see how this is performing. What goes into that when in terms of looking at the performance?
Yeah, you basically said said what I'm about to say. After nearly every campaign, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Internally, very often with multiple internal teams, we do comprehensive reviews with our agencies and partners weekly. We speak to them daily. Doing this so frequently allows us to identify any new trends or areas of significance that would warrant a change of direction or spend. Our overall strategy remains pretty solid throughout a time frame or quarter, but sometimes it can take longer to analyze and get a significant read, depending on the trends of the business. The industry is always evolving, and we need to act quickly with the shifts and evolution of technology and trends. But honestly, we're looking at these things every day.
So Jennifer, my final question, you mentioned just then that the industry is constantly evolving and you need to keep pace, obviously. So from your perspective, where is Vitacost focusing its attention as it looks to kind of continue to improve the effectiveness of its marketing efforts? Maybe one channel's performing, you're seeing great performance in one channel, maybe another is lagging. As you look forward, towards the end of the year, holiday, and then obviously moving into next year, where's your focus at?
Obviously, we want to do more innovative testing. We want higher levels of one-to-one personalization, especially with our partnership with Cellular Marketing Cloud and other partners. Constant benchmarking. We need to stay up on all the trends in the industry and make sure that we're implementing them into our programs.
Okay, great. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Jennifer Pallarino of Kroger for joining me today. Please check out our podcast channel page, mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and Stitcher, but make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. Also, please take the time to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and I look forward to you joining us on the next episode of Total Retail Talks.